every morning, 190 million Americans begin the day the same way, with a cup of coffee. Dripped, pressed, or perked. Here in Hawaii, we're downright serious about our own local brew. Hawaii Island's Kona and Ka'u districts are famous for producing small quantity, high-quality specialty coffees with unique flavors and characteristics. But that isn't the whole story. There are actually 11 distinct coffee-growing regions around the state. So if you're looking for a truly unique Hawaii experience on your vacation, visit a coffee farm, get acquainted with a friendly barista or two, and get to know the world's only all-American coffee. Where to start? How about from the ground up? About 5 miles up the hill from historic Haleiwa town sits Waialua Estate. That is Dole Food Company, Hawaii's diversified agriculture operation. With 155 acres of Arabica typica to harvest, work begins mighty early, and it's a safe bet that Derek Lanter will be there, seeing that everything runs smoothly.
Coffee is a fruit. We call these cherries. They kind of, with this red color, they look like a cherry. And inside the cherry, when we open it up, there's 2 seeds in a cherry. Sometimes there's only 1 seed in a cherry, in which case it's called a pea berry. We're collecting the seed of this fruit, which we dry and then roast. And once we roast it, we grind it, add water, and we make coffee. And so as we're looking at this tree, we can see that some of the fruit is very much ripe and ready to be picked. Others is still green and unripe. And then over here, we have overripe and what is turning into raisin coffee. We have a mechanical harvesting machine, and it drives over the rows of trees, and through a shaking and vibrating of these fiberglass fingers, it knocks the cherry off and collects it and goes up into a big box. So in a day, we can harvest 12 to 15,000 pounds of coffee.
There are few crops that are more labor-intensive or time-critical than coffee. In what happens next, there's no room for error. 2,000-pound boxes of coffee cherry are loaded into the wet mill's washer separator. Because it's more dense, raisin coffee sinks to the bottom of the water stream. It's separated out and taken immediately to begin drying.
We take all the raisin, we lay it out in racks and on the floor of the hothouse. And this is then raked and turned repeatedly during the day.
Meanwhile, the remaining ripe cherries and hard green cherries spin and collide in the green separator. Here, the soft fruit loses its outer skin and pulp, releasing its seeds. The skin and seeds are forced through a slotted screen. The byproduct, mucilage and juice, segregated, while the larger unripe cherries move on through the water stream into a separate bin. The remaining seeds of the ripe cherry are now called parchment coffee because of the protective outer layer that still covers the bean.
The parchment coffee, which was pulped, is going to sit in drying racks pretty much the whole time. This process will take 2 to 3 weeks of good weather to sun dry this coffee. And we again, stir it many times a day and rotate the racks in order to get the coffee evenly dried.
The unripe green coffee, once a waste product, is now a valuable commodity and will be sun-dried and sold to caffeine companies and cosmetics makers. Once sized, graded, and parchment-free, Waialua Estates coffee is ready for market, which in this case is mostly local hotels, restaurants, and specialty cafes like Honolulu's Downtown Coffee. It's been said that coffee isn't coffee until it's roasted, and Fred Hokata couldn't agree more. He has a passion for converting green beans into wonderfully complex and delightfully nuanced coffees through the art and craft of roasting.
It takes about 15 minutes to roast a batch of coffee. Once you preheated your roaster, you drop your green beans into the roaster, and then slowly the temperature is going to rise up. You'll see the colors change as the beans are roasting. First, you'll see the the yellowing of the coffee, then it'll start to brown slowly. You'll see a cinnamon color, and then it'll get darker, be like a darker chocolatey color. You're smelling the changing aroma too. So as the roast is progressing, after it starts to, we see the cinnamon color and more like a darker chocolatey color, then we'll hear the first crack. The coffee bean is bursting like popcorn. If we stop the roast there, we'll have a nice light roast coffee there. Okay, if we let it progress more towards the second crack, then we'll get a nice medium roast coffee.
Okay, this coffee deserves more attention than a fast gulp. So, how does one learn to appreciate a really good cup? Ask a barista, in this case 2011 United States Barista Champion and World Runner-up, Pete Licata.
Well, tasting coffee, and we make the analogy to wine, because there are a lot of similarities with it. You know, as far as the look of the coffee, the smell of the coffee, and just the mouth characteristic and taste. If you have a drip coffee, I usually tell people that it should be more of kind of an amber color. It shouldn't be just flat black. And you should be able to smell very nice, pleasant aromas coming off of that cup. Now, the other thing is when you just take a sip, it shouldn't be overly bitter, but it should be pleasant to drink black. Most Hawaiian coffees, when they're produced properly, have just a really amazing amount of sweetness to them naturally that you don't have to add sugar to or anything like that. And I think that that's one of the reasons why a lot of people coming to Hawaii really enjoy the Hawaiian-grown coffees. Well, with cappuccinos and lattes, we're talking about espresso drinks now. And these are a great indication of the skill of the barista and the detail that went into that drink. You should be able to look on top of that drink and you should be able to see what we call latte art, where the brown coffee and the white foam have kind of mixed together in a way that creates a pattern on top. But what you really want to look for is this, it should be a very, very velvety texture. The bubbles should be very small and almost like cream. You don't even realize that it's bubbles. That's the good sign of a great cappuccino. The best way to experience Hawaiian coffee is to visit one of the cafes that's serving all Hawaiian coffee. And the other way is you can go to these coffee farms and usually get a tour.
And there's no better place to do just that than Hawaii Island's Hula Daddy Coffee, where visitors are welcomed with open arms and a taste of some of Kona's very best. Located just outside sleepy Holualoa town on the slopes of a volcano named Hualalai, this boutique coffee farm is picture-perfect in every way. Perfect enough, in fact, to have received the highest rating ever given a Kona coffee by CoffeeReview.com. That's the coffee industry's equivalent of Wine Spectator magazine.
Hula Daddy is a coffee farm that my wife and I started 10 years ago. We decided to come to Kona and grow coffee, and at some point decided that it was going to be as high a quality coffee as we possibly could grow.
Well, we try to pick the best coffee. We pick it at the peak of ripeness, and then we sort our coffee, and we actually hand roast our coffee as well, and then we cup every roast of coffee that comes out to make sure that what you get is a perfect cup of coffee when you get it.
Kona coffee is expensive because everything's done by hand. Hand planting, hand pruning, hand picking.
No random harvest this. Every week during the 6-month-long harvesting season, workers move through the hillside orchards, filling their baskets with only the ripest, reddest, most perfect cherries.
We sort our coffee by hand. Every time that we get a new load of coffee in from the field, we go through it. Last year we went through 50,000 pounds of coffee, fruit, taking out things which might affect the quality of the cup. It was always a question of is quality worth the price? But people spend $60, $100 for a bottle of wine at a nice dinner, and out of that they get 6 drinks. You can spend the same amount of money and get 30 cups of coffee. I think one of the things that's happening is that there's a renaissance of coffee. People are starting to realize that coffee has unique tastes, unique flavors. at the end of a great dinner with a great wine and a great dessert, having a coffee that explodes in your mouth, and that as you drive home after dinner you can still taste that coffee. People are starting to realize that's available, and they're looking for it.
So while you're here in Hawaii, try thinking about coffee the way you think about wine. There's good wine, there's better wine, and there's great wine. The same is true of coffee. You'll find the great ones by exploring and experimenting, searching down the lanes and around the corners, till you happen upon that special craftsman whose care and attention to detail create for you a memorable experience. Enjoy.